Alfie, good morning. Welcome again at a second attempt at this interview. How are you today?
I'm good. Looking forward to hopefully what's going to be a busy day.
Indeed. It's a bit sunny today, which is nice. We'll see how long that lasts.
I know.
And it'll be great to spend a few moments with you this morning chatting about the history of TUCC, your involvement, why you're doing it, and some of those motivations, and then what's next for the enterprise.
Great, great.
So why don't you introduce yourself to our so-called viewers?
Well, I'm Alfie and I'm the founder and director of Tayside Upcycling and Craft Centre. We're a community interest company, and our basic aims are to promote anything to do with upcycling. And then we measure our impact by the amount of things that we divert from landfill, so primarily furniture, but other things like jeans and tin cans. And then what we also do is ensure that the 30 plus artisans in here all get at least the minimum wage for what they produce.
Yep, which is great. And why have you set up as a community enterprise rather than normal business? What's the motivation for that particular style of incorporation?
Yeah, I think as regards when we looked to start the organisation, it was on the back of a very successful wife, Sarah, doing well with her small upcycling business. But what was happening more and more in her old shop was people were coming in, they were asking for advice, they were asking, how do I upcycle? They were asking for the materials. But more importantly, would come in some mornings and there'd be a chest of drawers sitting outside the shop. And it became quite clear to me that there was a real need for a community organisation that could offer solutions to all these kind of problems. Yeah. And I looked at whether we would set up as a charity, set up as a business. After some advice, it became quite clear that a community interest company was the best legal format for us. And in effect, it's a non-profit making organisation, so not for profit. Any money that is made stays in the organisation, but you also have the protection of an asset lock. So that means if anything should happen to the organisation or to the individuals, the assets are frozen. And then we've made sure that any money that's in the organisation would then go to Autism Scotland.
Right. So you've got protections in here that even if this ceases to be, its last act as an enterprise would be to be giving back into society and those type of things.
Absolutely.
And that's bound in legally and by the whole ethos of the business.
Yeah, I mean the community interest company, there's thousands of them now, and it's a kind of halfway house between a business and a charity, really. But I mean, the most important thing for us was, although what we do and lots of things we do are charitable, we do want to make it pay. And I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that at some point I would like to make a decent living out of this. That might be a while. But more importantly, we want to make sure that all the people in here, the team of artisans, are being rewarded for the good work that they're doing.
Yeah, no, indeed. And I think it's, with the quality of the merchandise that's in here, be it the furniture or be it the table lamps or be it the artistic pieces, is really high quality. And to maintain that and to keep your community of makers together, it's got to be viable for people, because this isn't hobby grade upcycling. This is professional grade and interior decoration pieces.
Absolutely.
And that takes time, that takes commitment, it takes skill and everything else. And if that's going to, by the time you've got it and you've sold your piece and you've sort of effectively just made £100 on top of the materials you've used and you're getting no recognition for your time, even for the best of us, that's not going to be maintainable or sustainable in the long term. Whereas, like you say, if your makers can make a reasonable living wage out of it, they've got some hope of continuing. They've got the realism of making enough to survive on this, and then they can do other things and enrich it. As most of us know, it's more about many side hustles than one major thing in the making world at the moment. And probably will stay that way for some time. But I think it's absolutely fantastic to have that aim and clear structure that says, when you buy something here, you're rewarding the artisan for doing what they've done.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think the other thing that we offer is a kind of route to market. So it's not just a case of us showcasing and selling the products that people make, but it's entry into the market as well. So there's lots of people. I mean, obviously we want to sell as much furniture as we can, but it's every bit as important that it's there to inspire people. So people come in, they might see a nice chest of drawers and think, I've one of these. And what we'll do is we'll coach them through that process so they could do it themselves. Now, the chances are the first couple of attempts aren't going to be as good as some of the products in here, but it's certainly achievable.
Yeah.
And the sense of the fact that they're making an impact themselves, they're being creative themselves, is a huge reward to lots and lots of people. And it's a great kind of thumbs up to us that we've got to have 10, 15 artisans in here that have went through that process of coming in, seeing Sarah, talking about what they want to do, us actually coaching them, giving them more skills, and then now they've got a wee business themselves. Just started off as a hobby, but it's a wee business now.
Yeah. No, which is amazing, really. And I'm located where you are, just on the edge of the main road. Your own sort of private shoot-in, shared with a garage.
Yeah.
And you're in a fantastic drive past position. And how long have you guys been here now?
We'll actually, we're just past 2 weeks since we first got the keys 3 years ago. We opened on the 1st of August 2020 in the middle of a global pandemic, again, which was a worry. But again, it's been a benefit given the fact that we showed we were able to trade during these difficult times and have prospered in spite of the pandemic. And when we looked to open, just as you say, one of the important things was to look at location. And I have to admit, initially it was a bit of a worry because we're pretty much halfway between Perth and Dundee, but we're on the main dual carriageway, and when we did our research, there's 18,500 cars pass every day. All we need is for just a couple of them to see us and spot us. And what's happened is over the years, as people pass by, there's a wee bit of interest. What is that place? And they pop in and see us, and it's a huge benefit. And then we've got the benefit of the fact that we're out of town. Our rates and our rent is not nearly as expensive. We could not afford to have this size of place, which is in total about 6,000-7,000 square feet.
Yeah.
In a town centre. We just couldn't afford it.
No, and it works, and I think that passing traffic, that passing footfall can only help.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at Dundee Town Centre and even Perth, that's a little bit more active with pure pass-through tourists, you couldn't compete with the amount of recognition spots you've got as people drive past. And as you say, you only need a small handful, a small percentage of that passing traffic to actually stop and have a look in. Mm-hmm. And again, for those of us that are shuttling along and heading down to one of the other cities or the likes, it's an easy, as you're passing, drop in and see what's new type of venue.
Yeah.
So I think that works really well for you.
I mean, it is a frustration in some ways that when we looked to set up, we did explore opportunities of potentially opening within the town. But I think sadly it's one of these things nowadays where you've got so many big premises within town centres owned by various landlords, and quite honestly, the only people who could afford to fill them are charity shops. We just couldn't afford to do it, but I think potentially in the future it's someone we could look at, because we engage with so many other organisations, whether that's a men's shed or WRIs, the Princess Trust. There's lots of people, and it could be potentially that we do take on a big site in Dundee or Perth and then open as a community hub. So it's not just a case of us, but we might be the kind of, the main anchor. But then there's all these other community organisations, and make these things a community hub and try and attract people back into the town centres. Because Dundee and Perth, comparing to the, how vibrant they were 10 years ago, are they're pretty poor now, sadly.
Yeah, no, it's very, as you say, town centres are turning into charity shops, coffee bars.
Yeah.
You've got some artisan producers moving in places, but they're struggling. And then, as you say, the bigger sites, we'll just look at how many Debenham sites are still empty.
I know.
Etc. It's an interesting place out there. But you guys are doing well. You're expanding, slowly but surely. You've got a good supply of artisans coming in and supplying you with quality materials. And, of course, you've got Sarah's other hat with the BBC and regular TV slots. And how does that work for you guys here?
Works very well. Firstly, the most difficult thing is obviously being married to a major television star and the pressures that come along with that. No, I'm only joking. I mean, from the point of view of the BBC Money for Nothing programme, we measure and document how people know about us and why they visited. And I mean, that's why we know so many people spot us from the road. But we do very well through Facebook, Instagram. We're now on TikTok. And, that's a big driver for people to come in. Word of mouth. But, there's got to be about 30% of the people that come in would be on the back of seeing Sarah on the BBC Money for Nothing programme. And I think that collaboration with the BBC and the fact that you could see our shop and, more importantly, Sarah, in a publicly owned television programme, reassures the customer as well.
Yeah.
The fact that we're aligned with them and what we do is a huge benefit. And Sarah now has, I think we've maybe 10 or 11 programmes that have already been recorded here, still to come out.
Yes.
And again, that'll be a huge boost.
Brilliant. So, obviously there's a huge number of programmes to come out that have got something from Sarah, something showing this place in them, which will be great. There were, can't remember how many went out sort of in the last year, where she's had slots. And I guess the next stage for Sarah might be you're going to have to persuade her to go on one of these these well-known personality reality shows. Maybe send her on a pilgrimage for a couple of weeks.
I'm not sure Sarah would be the type of person who'd want to do that. I mean, she's very good on camera, and she's very good on what she actually does. But when it actually comes to actually going out and giving talks or anything like that, she doesn't enjoy these as much. She's very comfortable doing what she's an expert at doing.
Yeah.
And that definitely comes through in the programme.
No, it does. She's got a great on-camera presence.
Yeah.
But I understand you have a fairly regular calendar of going out to various groups locally and talking about what's happening here and
absolutely
and life, etc.
Yeah, I mean, as part of being a community interest company and having clear aims, ours is to promote upcycling. And our journey is quite interesting, from how it kind of evolved through Sarah getting busier and then all the other artisans joining us. But there's key things within that. If we look back over the last few months, I mean, there's some months where we've actually sold 3 tons of furniture.
Yeah.
3 tons, hundreds of items. And if you think about the environmental benefit of that, given that a standard wee chest of drawers, the difference between you buying a second-hand one or an upcycled one as opposed to a brand new one, equates roughly to about half a tonne of CO2 that's been saved, because that's what goes into doing a new one. And also, given what we do and all the different items that we upcycle, everybody's got one in their house. So as part of that, people are interested in the journey. of the organisation. They're interested in the whole process. They're interested in the artisans. And what I do is I go out to local groups. We've got an educational outreach kind of thing that we do, and it's mostly, it could be anything from Women's Institute to local church girl guilds, but to kids. And we want to promote upcycling because, quite honestly, it's not just an environmental benefit, it's fun.
Yeah.
And more importantly now, the cost of living crisis, it's quite expensive to buy furniture.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot affordable for somebody maybe getting their first house or renting a flat. What they could do is they could go and buy a second-hand piece of furniture, £20, come in here, buy a pot of paint, and they've got a brand new piece in effect that they've done themselves.
Yeah.
So we just want to spread that message out there. And it's quite gratifying that people are actually interested in that. So, I mean, already this year, I think I've got 6 or 7 talks that I'll be doing later in the year, going out and about and just spreading the upcycling message.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head. There is, you have little or nothing here that's a flat pack piece of furniture. So what you guys bring in, you've the times I've popped in, you've had a great selection of upcycled and reimagined, mid-century classics. What these pieces of furniture are, who the names, etc., that they represent, and I think, what's in the shop, and obviously there'll be cutaways, etc., to show some of these, but you've got pieces which are just classically and lightly upcycled and redone, through to some incredible pieces that are modern art, effectively.
Absolutely.
Or vibing off pop art and those type of pieces. You've got that whole diversity. And of course you've got the other angle where you can also take commissions so that people can come in and say, I want something that looks like this.
Yeah.
So I think you cover all those bases of the pieces. And how many tons do you think you've saved from landfill now?
We're over 50 tons, and it's growing all the time. And that's just what we could measure ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's what's actually going out of the shop. What's hard to kind of calculate is just the difference that we're making externally, because it's quite obvious that we are making a difference. Because last year we sold 1,000 pots of paint.
Yeah.
So if you imagine how many items that's actually painted, and although some of these things may not have been going into the skip, there'd be a fair percentage of them would have been, and people have decided to give it a makeover rather than going and buying a new one.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's from an environmental point of view. If you look at all these organisations out there desperate to try and get down to net zero, we're a way the other way. Where it's hundreds of tons of CO2 that we've stopped being produced.
Yeah. No, and that's got to be the key with everything we're seeing. I mean, and as we're speaking now, I know we joked at the start about it being a sunny day for a change here, but thankfully we're not existing as Europe is at the moment in heat waves of 40 degrees plus, etc.
Yeah.
And I think, of all the recent summers, this is one of the starkest shows of, well, whatever's going on, it's serious and it's real and it's present.
And the thing is, people can actually, I mean, it might just be a little thing that they're doing, but if they're making a conscious effort to do that themselves and produce something or save something, it makes them feel good, the fact that they're making a difference. And like I keep harping back to, it's fun as well. Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt, and we've documented the stories of a few customers that, given what we've all been through the last few years, particularly with the pandemic, obviously, that if it wasn't for upcycling and the fact that they were able to be creative and had something to do, and it's not just upcycling, it's crafting as well. It's actually got people through, that difficult time. And it's a major benefit as regards mental health.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, the diversity of what you've got here. We've got a couple of the sort of more smaller, for want of a better word, trinket type
Yeah.
items that you regularly have in. But it's everything from, racing cars and motorcycles made out of old tin cans, and we've got the good old local Iron Brew.
Yep.
Various types of repurposed jewellery, bags, utilisation of wood bits and bobs to make ornaments and little houses and those type of things. Around the walls, you've got Dreamcasters that are made out of old bicycle rims. You've got the mosaic tile mirrors. You've got cushions in all shapes and sizes and colours, and even down to true art classic pieces, such as just in the background the big shiny steel aluminium circles, etc. You've got the whole diversity here of what can be produced, and I think it's fair to say, in the year or so that I've been popping in, where I've seen a good transition and a good turnover of some sort of, let's call them classics.
Yeah.
But then some quirky bits and bobs, etc. And I think that's the other piece of what you can do here. You're not reliant, as you might be if you were in a city centre, on having guaranteed sales.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, this gives you some freedom to let people experiment and see what other people respond to it on. And I think that gives you a vibrancy that you might not otherwise have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's only so much. I mean, nowadays there's so much emphasis put on online sales, also selling through social marketplaces, whether it's Facebook Marketplace, Etsy, all these kind of things. As far as we're concerned, you just can't beat the fact that you could come in, you could look at something. More importantly, you could actually touch and feel it. And then over and above that, what we'll actually do is we'll actually sell it to you and speak to you.
Yeah.
And it's not just a case of selling the story about, as we sit at this table and chairs, as a good example. Some people might come in and think this is painted. Well, no, it's actually been stenciled and stained. It's been taken back to the bare wood. It's a really skillful process. That's all different colours of wood stain. These 4 chairs that we've got here are 1960s Ercol chairs. No, design classics.
Yeah.
Again, what we've done is taken an old table, and through Sarah's design process, each tiny wee foot on here matches the legs of the tables. And it's not just a case of people seeing that. We'll sell it. And then when it comes to people like Rab or Leslie or Sarah or Kerry, it's not just a case of people buying into what they've produced. They're also buying into the story and the conversation a wee bit. The fact that, if they've got this and somebody said, what is that? It gives them a nice feeling, the fact that they could talk about the artisan every bit as much as the actual product. And that makes a difference. And I mean, more than ever, we actually try to be a proper shop because, as we touched on earlier, every town centre is dying.
Yeah.
What we want to be is a bricks and mortar shop. And I think people understand that. And it's really, really good. We get lots of support through customers, whether it's sharing it through Facebook, but it then drives people into the shop. And then I've got to say as well, the local newspaper, the Courier, they've been hugely supportive because they understand exactly what we're trying to do, and that helps drive people in as well. So it's all good.
Which is great. So let's wrap up. So what's coming up in the next few months of note for you guys as you sort of build up to that Christmas period?
There's quite a bit planned actually. We're looking to restart our workshops, probably the end of August, start of September. They'll be here, and again, that's helping spread the upcycling message and getting more people into it. I've got a whole series of visits going out to people. We've got 2 or 3 new artisans planned for coming in. We're looking to start somebody in a couple of months as well to train with Sarah to help get more into upcycling. And then from there, we might look at pop-up shops. We might look at other collaborations. But the one thing for sure is we're not going to stand still. There's lots to do.
Yeah.
And we'll keep fighting the fight.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time this morning, and I'm sure we'll be chatting again soon.
Great, thanks, Steve.
Cheers. Bye
Cheers,
now.
bye.